Now, in defense to cheating... Sorry, that came out wrong. Not in defense to cheating. In defense of the accusation of cheating, and not to say that anyone on screen right now was cheating or anything, but here's like the good thing about cheating. Sorry, I keep wording this really badly. Here's the advantage to cheat. No, that doesn't work out. Look, just let me cook, all right? So let's say hypothetically, worst case scenario, your opponent is actually cheating, right? Because they get to conveniently forget a restriction. They conveniently forget like a condition or a lock, right? So they forget it. Now, here's the thing. Worst case scenario, they get to just play with under a restriction and lock and they just get away with it. Best case scenario, you catch it and you say, oh, you couldn't do that. And then they say, oh, my bad. And then you move on with your life. So, if in a really evil multiversal sense that the opponent that you're playing against is actually cheating, it's like such a win-win situation, right? Because if they get caught, it's just, oh, whoops, sorry. And if they don't get caught, well, then they just get away with cheating. Do you know what I mean? So, that's why, and I can promise you, 90% of you people here will be too awkward and too shy to call a judge. Now, no one wants to be that guy. No one wants to be that dude and be like, oh, man, sorry, you know, I gotta call a judge. You technically made an illegal activation. No one wants to be that guy. You know, that's fair. Especially at the local level, etc., etc. But the thing is, in the off chance that your opponent is actually cheating, and again, not saying anyone on screen is or anyone in this situation would, but just as a general thing, if your opponent does an illegal activation, it is important to get a judge to correctly penalize it. Because what happens is that if they make more illegal activations for the rest of the duel, and then you eventually call a judge on the third time, by which point they should have probably potentially got a game loss. Holy fuck, this guy's annoying. No one cheated. I'm giving a hypothetical example. PSA, no one cheated. I am giving a hypothetical example. This happens all the time, by the way. Judge comes over, says, what's the problem? And then the player says, oh, my opponent illegally activated this card in game 1. They did it again in game 2. And now I'm calling a judge because of the third time that they're doing an illegal activation. This is a little bit ridiculous. My opponent doesn't know how to play their deck. Please address the situation. Do you know what the judge does in that situation? They give them a PE minor for the most recent infraction, and the previous two that you didn't call the judge for are ignored. That's how it works. That's how it works. So, again, if an illegal activation happens when you're playing at a tier 2 plus premier event, you know, and your opponent like clearly is, you know, doing things that are illegal and forgetting restrictions and forgetting conditions, not to assume that everyone is cheating, but just to make sure that everyone is following the tournament policy to the best that they can to keep a clean and fair game state for everyone involved, you should call a judge and you should mention that an illegal activation stuff was made. No one wants to be that guy. No one wants to be that dude. But in the very rare off chance that you're playing against someone and they do an illegal activation, like I said, it is such a win-win situation for a potential cheater. Because they attempt to cheat by forgetting a condition or restriction. If you pick up on it and you realize that they are ignoring a certain restriction or lock, like a fire lock from Princess, etc., they get to just say, whoops, my bad, and move on with the game. Or you forget it and they get to get away with that lock, right? And that's why it's almost a bit lopsided in some ways, but you do have to like make sure that people correctly receive infractions just in case it is deliberate. You don't know it's deliberate, not accusing anyone of saying it's deliberate, but this is just an important side point to bring up because it does happen at events and it's something to remember and think about.